Pandora Tomorrow. Why is this not on PC? When looking this up on Steam, almost every game from the Splinter Cell series is out for sale, except for the original Double Agent. Instead, we have the 360 version. Essentials on PSP, which takes place after Double Agent. And then of course, Pandora Tomorrow. To my knowledge, there's no clear answer as to why this game hasn't been ported onto Steam, whether that reason could be because of licensing issues, or the shadow buffering used by GeForce on the original physical copy on PC, which complicates the modern GPUs used today. Now, let's be real here. If that were the case, then those that developed the RPCS3 emulator couldn't possibly made it nearly as good as it is today. Bottom line is, this seems like an excuse for not porting the game onto either Steam or GOG. If it's not the licensing issue, then something else is holding it back, and we can't depend on a port of this game anytime soon because of Ubisoft's status right now, and we'll leave it at that. Well, at the very least, we can play this game on the Xbox One or the Xbox Series, so long as you have the original Xbox disc. Microsoft doesn't sell this game anywhere on their stores, even when looking it up, and if you're lucky enough to get your hands on the remastered trilogy exclusively on PS3, then that's a sweet deal for you. Now listen, just because we don't have a Steam version doesn't mean it's impossible. There's always an alternative. If you're an exclusive PC gamer, then you could try and pick up a PC physical copy, rip the files from there, and download those patch fixes for the game. Or you could try and run the original Xbox emulator on PC and play the game that way. Now, if you were to be interested in diving into the series for the first time or wanting to get back into that nostalgia train, we don't have an actual port to purchase and download on PC or consoles currently, unlike the rest of the series that's here on Steam. You'll have to take an alternative route for Pandora Tomorrow and for the original Double Agent. We'll showcase this game being played on the emulator, but that'll be for later. For now, let's take a look at the physical version of the original Xbox that was also released on PS2 and a GameCube in 2004. Can you believe that? This game is 20 years old. Now, much like the first game, Splinter Cell has Xbox Live again with downloadable content like extra levels to play through, but this time we have online multiplayer. Unfortunately, this doesn't have any split screen mode, unless you know how to work the system link and connect the two Xboxes online in some way. Which, system link is an interesting topic that we should talk about, but it deserves a video of its own in the future. The new dawn of stealth action. You are, once again, Sam Fisher, a covert US operative on a mission of high-risk espionage. Execute with total stealth. Exit without a trace. Now, we're keeping it simple this time. This will be a common thing you see often whenever official Xbox magazine gets brought up, always hyping up the games to the T. A revolutionary new Xbox Live experience. Now, you might have noticed this familiar sticker on this corner. That's right, this comes from Blueky Games. To tell you the truth, this will be my first time playing this sequel. Now, hear me out. Back then, when me and my older brother played Splinter Cell, there were other legendary games we were playing, and somehow Pandora Tomorrow never showed up in our radar, and instead we skipped right on over to Chaos Theory. Listen, can you really blame us? We were young, subtitles didn't mean anything unless you had a big old number that clearly indicates the sequel. We walked right into our local video game store one day and just said, hey look, a new Splinter Cell, and the rest is history. Blueky Games did a really good job sending me this in such great condition, although it is unfortunate that the manual was in black and white, but that's not their fault, that's just the way it comes. Still, there's some things to look at here, and well, actually, take a look here. The single player only has 12 pages, whereas the multiplayer section has almost about 20. They don't even have a section for the tips and tricks on here. The single player section is straight to the point, with barely any deep descriptions, other than maybe Sam's profile. Just kind of baffling that single player is so short compared to multiplayer, where everything else there matters. Which, by the way, let me ask, did you get the chance to play online at all, and is it fun? Let me know in the comments if you had any experience on Pandora Tomorrow's multiplayer. So the third echelon is still the same group like Lambert and Grimsdaughter. We got a new guy on a team named Brunton. He's got the same rank as Lambert, but works in an organization branch under the third echelon called the ShadowNet. We also have Cohen returning as the person in charge of extraction, but strangely isn't shown here on the booklet. Jeez, why'd they gotta do that to Cohen? Now before we get into gameplay, today's introduction is called The Threat, and don't worry, we'll make it short this time. The US temporarily sets up a military base in East Timor. Its purpose is to train and strengthen their bases. However, there seems to be an opposition to this military presence somewhere in Southeast Asia. The Indonesian militias, also known as the Daradan Doa. Guerrilla leader Suhadi Sudano, we just call him Sudano, also backing him up is the corrupted Indonesian factions. the guerrillas. They attacked the US Embassy in Jakarta and is taken hostages. Once again, we are Sam Fisher, sent by the NSA to not rescue the hostages, that's the job for the military, but to destroy the top secret documents on the embassy computer before Sedano gets to it. So if you watched the first Splinter Cell video, you should already be aware on what to expect in the next game, such as controls. They're nearly the same as the last game, but the devs revamped the controls. Instead of the black button selecting your weapon, it is now white. They also switched reloading to the A button, which makes more sense. And instead of the white button to lean against the wall, it has been switched to pressing the left stick down. These revamped controls was a much easier approach on getting it to the first level. Definitely an improvement. Now let me quickly go over the wall jump since this was never used the last time. There are a couple times you'll need to do the wall jump tactic with a set platform to hover over, and you have to lean over the opposite direction and jump afterwards to land. Clunky at first, but after understanding it a little bit, it's easy to get behind this. Now as far as movement and everything else based on that, the rest is the same. Managing your slow movements while sneaking in the dark, climbing up on platforms, poles, or ladders, sliding down on them. Mission Impossible pole crossing is still a thing, or even ziplining across your way while casually shouting out, Still, this is a sequel nonetheless, so expectations are in order. Now, let's define the term sequel, besides an excuse to continue the story with the characters that they have right now. What exactly makes a sequel in Splinter Cell? Well, besides revamped controls, tweaking controls to get a better execution as a start, gunplay should see an improvement like the aiming, sneaking attacks should do better, no doubt about that, or perhaps maybe the HUD, or the UI's appearance to give it a fresh coat of paint maybe. Well, that's always a thing in every sequel. It's a different HUD? Yeah, it's a newer game. But besides that, you'll be pleased to hear that Pandora Tomorrow has indeed improved from the first game. The pistol is handled much better here. The precise reticle doesn't do you the favor, you can tap the left trigger while aiming to switch to the red laser sight. It sort of does this pendulum swing, so you really need to focus your sight directly at your target, but you will be amazed at how much of an improvement this little change is. You have better chances in getting that headshot you'd so desire. But keep in mind that the enemy guards can pick up on those laser sights and will alert the rest of his army, so you better knock him out fast. This wasn't brought up in the first Splinter Cell, my bad, but while aiming with the SC-20K, you press down on the right stick to get a proper first-person zoom. Sniping with this weapon has almost never been easier. Here in Pandora Tomorrow, our gun gets sent to an expert. He customizes the barrel so that it has less impact on noise when shooting. It'll sound almost as close as shooting the SC pistol, but without taking precaution in your surroundings, it can still alert the guards, so be wary. Not only is it more silent, but we have more settings to zoom as far as the 6 times the sight. When aiming, you can hold on to the left trigger to get that steady accuracy, with very limited time you have on that gauge meter. Unfortunately, Sam does not carry any diazepams with him, so he can only aim for one perfect shot. And the only downfall to this upgrade is after the gauge meter depletes, his aim goes so off course you'll forget what you were aiming at. Speaking of the SC-20K, the gadgets you use with the gun is pretty useful. Well, at least 2 of them are. They were also present in the first game, but these gadgets never came to my attention as if they weren't an important factor to my sneaking missions. But jeez, talk about being wrong in almost every department there. They can be so helpful that sometimes it makes me regret not using them earlier. You can either select from the weapon menu or use the directional pad with the weapon equipped to switch through those gadgets. This doesn't work using the first-person zoom, so you have to use a normal sight, and press the left trigger to shoot the gadget equipped. Let's start with the ring airfoil. Now this doesn't kill the enemy, but so what, it's not supposed to. In fact, during hard times, all it takes is 2 hits in the head before they go to sleep, and it'll help you in tight situations where it becomes difficult to grab onto the guard, especially in areas you're not permitted for fifth freedom, or the sticky shocker. It's much quicker than a ring airfoil, and all it takes is 1. There's also the smoke grenade, or the gas grenade, same thing really, where they surround themselves in the cloud, giving you the chance to run. Admittedly, this did more harm to me than support. That might be my luck, but personally speaking, don't bother with those. The distraction camera is a little dud you can shoot towards an enemy, and you have the option to send out gas or to create noise to distract the guards. It's a cool little idea, but it's practically useless in my opinion, and that's pretty much no different than the sticky camera, except it's a camera that sticks to walls, and it's only used in a situational purpose and nothing more. You'll use this on an enemy to record his dialogue and grabbing a code for door entry. Now how about those other gadgets Sam's got in his belt? Well, for starters, lockpicking is still a thing, but you also have your good old disposable locks if you really want to rush through those levels, although you don't get a lot of these unfortunately. The camera jammer is here once again, but it always felt weird to move while using the jammer, so it's best to either knock the lights out if possible, or just hide underneath the camera against the wall and traverse. Then we have the laser microphone, which, oh, thank God it only gets used in one section. We don't need to bring this up anymore, let's move on. The optical cable is no different. You see through the door to know what's ahead of you before entering through. And of course, who could forget Sam's best gadget? The headset goggles that allow him to see through heat vision and night vision. Along the way, you do pick up other things to use, such as multiple grenades, like the frag grenade, the flash grenade, or the chaff grenade. Or you can even pick up flares to cause a distraction. Now, since this is an espionage game, you're more likely to forget those other tools and focus on other things that matter in front of you, like being stealthy. One would argue they would use those tools to their advantage, and if you can, shoot, you got my respect. Because otherwise they'd always seem to backfire on my part, but again, that's probably my luck. You can get by without using such gadgets and tools if you're smart enough to handle it in the shadows. Take for instance, the whistle. Yes, now we can lure these guys to walk on over to a quiet spot and eliminate them undercover, lethal or non-lethal. The whistle is one of the best things they added on here. This improves sneaking in some way, but you still have those moments where you're gonna get caught because of how noisy you move, or maybe you forgot about that body you were supposed to hide and just said screw it because you're lazy to go back. Consequences are not afraid of creeping up on you when you least expect it. And we now have a new alarm system where we're given a few chances before your cover is blown completely. And each time that alarm goes off, they set themselves on stage depending on the threat level. Like the first stage alarm, for example. The guards will then wear jackets to protect their torso. The second stage will force them to wear helmets and make it difficult for those glory headshots. 3 strikes, you're out. Mission's over, pretty typical. Now one thing to throw out here, and it's kind of funny, is setting the turret to friendly fire will automatically set off the alarm if the enemy dies as such, which is kind of crazy. Also, if the enemy doesn't use their walkie to call in the alarm, most likely someone else like the pedestrian will run over to the alarm panel and set it off. Other things that can set it off like the surveillance cameras, which is no surprise in any espionage game, but that can be handled with a simple shot to the lens. But don't forget, there are cameras that are bulletproof, and with those you'll have to do your best to sneak past it. These motion detectors, damn, they don't come up often, but these things do show up when you don't expect them to. You move anywhere near those things and you'll get flashed, and then all of a sudden you're put on blast. And once it... wow, that rhyme was unintended, but whatever, you'll get exposed and that will set off the alarm. So when you do find those detectors, you'll have to walk slowly from their range and carry on. Speaking of traps, man, these guys level themselves up with these traps, let me tell you. We're talking surveillance cameras, motion detectors, alarm systems, and now we even have booby traps such as trip mines, claymores, and of course those wall mines. Though admittedly, they may have gotten a little carried away with those trip mines at one point.
Oh no!
Ah, looks like our canine friend has come back to give us some trouble. Yeah, nobody likes dogs in the universe of Splinter Cell, and everyone knows they're nothing but trouble. Now take a look at this guy here. He wants nothing to do with this dead dog. He's not even going to set off the alarm. No vet treatment for you. When it comes to sneaking in Pandora Tomorrow, it just feels better, we'll put it that way. We're not quite there with Chaos Theory just yet, but like you saw in the thumbnail, it's a step in the right direction. Oddly enough, that could be just me and manually adjusted to the controls after the first game, but arguably without the first Splinter Cell, you could jump straight into Pandora Tomorrow and have a better time. Of course, that's not to say the game is perfect, even though the mistakes that happen feel more like it's my fault rather than the game's fault, but that's not the case with every scenario. Not to keep bringing up Metal Gear again, however, in this context it'll make sense, so let me ask you this. When the alarm goes off, do you carry on and hide, or do you reset back to the checkpoint? Personally, after playing Metal Gear on European Extreme, it has trained me to go through the campaign and reset whenever making a mistake, but if it carries on for too long, then it's best to move on before it becomes less fun and more painful to bear. Speaking of checkpoints, well, it's not so bad in Pandora Tomorrow, but they were much worse in the first game, let me tell you. Whenever you get a game over and load up the last checkpoint, you have to constantly listen to Lambert's speech, watch an in-game cutscene that can't be skipped, or even worse, you save at a checkpoint right before you get to use the laser microphone, which breaks the pace of the game by tenfold. It's less painful here, more often you have to repeat the same task you did over again, but that's almost an equivalent as a platformer game like Super Mario Bros. You'd rather repeat the same world again than to load up a checkpoint and play the waiting game behind a microphone for what feels like 5 minutes is an eternity. Regardless, if you play through this on normal, it'll be a good time for you. But if you're a hardcore player, well, it is a bumpy road to go through. But let me remind you once again, you will have a better time than you will on the first Splinter Cell. Pandora Tomorrow is a step in the right direction for many reasons, but to name one would be how they set you up on your next infiltration. And the best example of this is the mission that sets you up on a moving train. You go inside and have to make your way to the front cargo, but you'll get stuck at a dead end. So then you'll open the latch on the floor, only to climb this pole underneath the train to cross over that locked door. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Then you go to the stage in Jerusalem from the surface to underground. The deep jungles in Indonesia to set a bomb on a plane. Then there's a mission where you have to infiltrate a TV station to stop a public broadcast. And another mission that has you ride inside the truck to sneak inside the airport. And it only gets more exciting as you progress through the different stages, and honestly, it became a greater experience than expected. Now hang on a second, we still need to cover this game being played on PC using Xemu, the Xbox emulator. Xemu is already set up with the latest version 0.8.16 at the time of this recording. And to be honest, although this game can run at a normal speed, however, it suffers from graphical glitches and collision detections that it's not a pretty look. It's a shame because the intro and cutscenes all start off to look really nice up until the gameplay actually starts, where Sam is sometimes camouflaged or he's clipping through props. Now Xemu is not the best option, and you could always try the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube versions on either the PCSX2 emulator or the Dolphin emulator for a better alternative. Alright, you might be curious on something. Pandora Tomorrow. What the hell is that? Why is it named that? Are we going through the day after tomorrow apocalypse or something? Well, we won't find out until we go through the rest of the story, now won't we? So Sam is sent to the East Timor to infiltrate the US Embassy and destroy the top secret documents. And he's also come to find out that an old ally of his named Douglas has been taken hostage. With the exception of one hostage, everyone is handled by the military. And on the way there, Lambert introduces us to Brunton on the intel. Much like Grimstutter, he'll help out on your missions via communications. Almost like having two Lamberts talk to you, but look, if you got an input, fine, but we'll have to agree on what Sam says here.
And with some due respect, leave anything Lambert can say to Lambert. I don't want the voices in my head to become a crowd.
Alright, let's quickly address the elephant in the room. Lambert. More specifically, his voice actor, Don Jordan, is not present in this game. Rather, we have Dennis Haysbert. The same goes for Grimstutter, where instead of Claudia Resso, we have Adriana Anderson. They were only temporarily replaced while this game was being developed by Ubisoft Shanghai. Discussions about behind the scenes when it comes to video games is not really my expertise, but trying to find the answers to the questions behind the reason as to why these voice actors were replaced in the first place is kinda strange. Mainly because there's more speculation than documentation. Whether you find the answers on Wiki or Reddit, there's no clear answer on other than Pandora Tomorrow was being developed in Ubisoft Shanghai, at the same time Ubisoft Montreal was developing Chaos Theory. Everyone reprised their role there, but in Pandora Tomorrow we at least got Michael Ironside as Sam Fisher on all three games. As for the other voice actors, they might have been busy with Chaos Theory, or they had other projects to work on besides Pandora Tomorrow. Regardless, it really doesn't matter today, so we're past it and it's back to normal in Chaos Theory anyway. Sam is under a non-lethal role in this mission. We'll interrogate this man, who happens to be Sedano's lieutenant, and finds out about his defense perimeters. Now it's interesting to see how Sam, of all people, low-key has a dark sense of humor.
I don't speak English.
I'd be willing to bet your neck that you do.
I know a little English.
Good to hear. I'm going inside to meet your friends. Anything I need to worry about?
They have guns.
I'm shocked and amazed.
But ultimately, when it gets down to business, he's not afraid to show his true self. And it's quite intimidating.
My men planted the mines on our way out. We had to escort to defend the village.
Escort who?
Nothing.
Escort who?
Ah! Nobody. I made a mistake.
Escort who?
Ah!
Yeah, no kidding. Well anyway, he breaks the ice and his men planted mines outside the front, and was escorting someone who happens to be an American with a fake leg. While making your way to find Douglas, Sedano kills the hostage, but keeps the others trapped under supervision, while Douglas is in the other room. Sam saves Douglas, but the militia already pulled some data out of their computer. Before Douglas got tied up, he managed to kill one of Sedano's men and retrieve the stolen data on the Memory Pro stick. And if you know what that is, then you know. Sam sends the data over to Grimstutter to translate the code. All the other stuff on there doesn't matter to us, except our priority is to find out who or what is Mortified Penguin. Also, we need to search for Ingrid Carlson. What a strange name. She's an Indonesian woman who is a CIA agent. Guess you could say she's a mole.
You're not gonna like this.
Chances are.
In order to find her, we need to cross this garden. However, there's a sniper on the lookout using his thermal goggles to see in the dark, so invisibility isn't going to help you in this scenario. Except, we take a page out of Stephen Hillenburg's book and play the game called Opposite Day, where you have to traverse through the spotlights and cross the garden.
You're telling me to stay in the light?
I said you wouldn't like it.
After reaching the top floor of the tower and eliminating the sniper, we find Ingrid, who seemed overwhelmed with her new position at her job, and he gives her the phone to see if she understood the Indonesian language via text. She reveals the time and place of a meeting, and that in a few weeks they'll secure the ingredients for the Springfield, signed Mortified Penguin. Apparently we just leave her, assuming she doesn't need the rescue after all the trouble.
Are you going to be alright if I leave here?
Would you stay if I said no?
No.
While escaping, the military steps in to save the hostages in Shetland Douglas, which means Sam is open for fifth freedom. What does that mean? We have the right to eliminate our enemies by all means. And after doing so, we have to cut the power and head for the extraction by boat. Not only does Sam escape cleanly, but so does Sedano. In the next mission, which takes place in Paris, France, we unfortunately don't get to see the Eiffel Tower. Not gonna lie, that's kind of a letdown. But after discovering the location from the email on the phone, Sam has to look for a cryogenic research laboratory that this Mortified Penguin broke into, along with his henchmen that consist of Siberians and Frenchies. Along the way, Grimsdottir requests Sam to locate a security terminal so that she can gain full access to the research lab's network activity. The mercs were getting ready to shoot all the PCs down, and Sam has to be quick to stop them. And after looking into the database, Mortified Penguin was looking for specific frozen dead bodies. But in the midst of revealing the important part, we're interrupted by the mercenaries planting a bomb in the boiler room. Once all that nonsense was handled, we go upstairs and access the client database computer, revealing more on Mortified Penguin's intentions. 8 clients were placed in their own chambers to freeze. Then after release, they were under a procedure where their brains are pulled out from their skulls, then placed inside a box storage device called the ND-133. Later on, Sam goes inside what's called the limited storage, where the ND-133 is placed. But Mortified Penguin already grabbed the rest of the ND-133 and dipped. However, all isn't lost yet, as the mercenaries apparently want to kill a man named Kodabov, a security guard who got a picture of Mortified Penguin. He got injured and locked himself inside the body processing room, meaning that's where they do the brain operation. So Sam will sneak into an office and climb up the ventilation shaft and crawl over to where that room is. And as we crawl out of that shaft, pulling off the surprise entrance in front of Kodabov, Sam reveals himself out of the shadows, but is quick to ask for that phone. And once he got the photo, Sam just leaves Kodabov there to die. How unfortunate. No rescue for you. Although Lambert might have felt bad about that one.
That was a fine way to think, Kodabov.
I get the feeling you're being sarcastic.
He didn't need to die.
The image showed Mortified Penguin linked to a CIA agency operative named Norman Soth, a former freedom fighter who was part of an operation called Redbeard. But he spent nearly a decade trying to suppress the Timorese uprisings. Because this man was in the hiatus for a long time, the NSA is unsure whether Soth is still on their side or became a terrorist. Grimsdottir tracks Soth boarding onto a train heading to Nice, France, using the name Jonathan Poindexter. Sam gets dropped off by a helicopter to infiltrate the moving train and bypass the obstacles. Like this stunt here. Seriously, do not try this in real life, because that's instant death. Lethal use is absolutely strict by all means. We can't have Soth thinking there's trouble. Aside from keeping it low between the employees and Soth's goons, you need to find him inside a room, and the best way to look for him is using the heat vision on your goggles to see through his fake leg. You'll silently interrogate him and cut straight to the point, finding out if he's still with the CIA and his story behind Sedano in the cryogenic lab. He gives out misinformation and is saved by an interruption from his goons. As Sam hides, Soth got a phone call from Sedano and it sounded urgent. Turning his back on Sam, Lambert tells him to hack into his computer. Yes, how stupid of him to leave his laptop in the open, right? Sam will then trail Soth to where he's in a good hiding spot and use his laser microphone for the first and only time we ever use it. We don't hear the full conversation like we used to. In fact, Soth is more sketched that someone might be watching and feels unsafe to use the phone anyway. Grimstarter went through the process of tracking Soth's computer and has come to find out that a biological agent from the black market has made a purchase to the Springfield demonstration. Soth alerts his goons and exposes Sam before he could escape the train, but that doesn't stop him after Lambert gives him the green light to kill if necessary. Best course of action is to jump to the ladder and run the hell out of there. This unknown biological agent happens to be in Jerusalem, Israel. We're not only sent on a mission to search for this individual, but to also find the expert who upgraded our SC-20K. A lot of individuals who played this game said that they enjoyed the soundtrack of this stage, and they got my vote on that one. Not just for the stage, but almost every stage is pretty damn good. Strangely enough, my favorite is when you're in an alert stage and the music ramps up, adding more percussion and bass to the whole scene. The intensity behind it is so surreal. You'll find your guy named Saul, but he so happens to have gotten himself into trouble with some thieves. This part is cool. You'll grab this guy before the other guy grabs onto Saul, and you'll give him the dead eye shot. You'll pick up your enhanced gun and he takes you to a spot where you can test the range without firing the gun, otherwise you'll cause a disturbance. Speaking of which, he'll give you a test run on using the sticky shocker gadget on an incoming guard who looked like he was about to do something inappropriate standing in front of that fountain. But after hiding the body, Sam and Saul split their ways and he'll carry on looking for that agent. We'll find a woman dressed in a traditional outfit that has a connection with the black market dealer. Another connection to Soth in a sense, and by meeting her discreetly, we have to pass out the following code.
Is there a special hour for the mass?
Only in the morning.
Dahlia Tal is the name, and Sam questions her about Soth's intentions in Jerusalem. Apparently he wanted to trade the ND-133 and some US currency for a biological weapon the Syrians had for over a decade. Dahlia escorts Sam over to the warehouse where the device is stored, but of course along the way, they both can't be seen together. And so he'll follow along in the shadows as he always does. We enter through the warehouse where they have a built-in elevator that'll take him underground where they have a lab, and possibly the storage device might also be there, but Dahlia was quick to set you up inside the elevator solo. Before we go down, Lambert will give you the order to shoot Dahlia without thinking or questioning, and this leaves you with only 5 seconds to decide on following those orders given to you or not. You want my opinion? Kill the bitch. Are you kidding? She's a terrorist, woman or not. Besides, Lambert already confirmed on her position before we even met her. Yeah, Sam goes through a guilty conscience and thinking that might have been wrong, sure. But either way, you're open for fifth freedom the second that elevator opens those doors. And after handling everyone downstairs, we do find an ND-133 storage device. It's enough to investigate, so it's time to bail.
Great work, Fisher. Now find out what's in it.
I could open it.
And you could play Russian roulette with a clip-loading pistol.
Where's your sense of humor?
Let's quickly go back to Dahlia, where we just leave her to live and ignore Lambert's orders. Not only does he get annoyed with you, but also causes more trouble when you leave the area because Dahlia will set up snipers to eliminate you from 3 different sides. 2 that are straight ahead above, and 1 on the left hanging over the balcony, and 1 on the right. You won't see him from this perspective unless you travel to the other side here, and you'll find him hovering over a window. There are a couple differences that happen when Dahlia lives, but for the sake of this video not dragging for more than an hour, we're gonna stick with the canon story. She actually dies right there, but if you're really curious about the other side of that story where she lives, that's not to spoil everything. So when you do play the game and take this route, you'll find out for yourself. So the ND-133 contains an incomprehensible virus developed from Springfield called the smallpox. It's almost exactly what you think it sounds, only it's much worse. The codename Pandora Tomorrow is Sedano's insurance policy, where he'll make secure phone calls to disclose the locations of the virus in the US. Those viruses will be released in under 24 hours if Sedano is either detained or killed. The next mission is in the jungles of Indonesia, where we infiltrate a refinery in Kudang. Douglas makes a return as a supporting character for this mission, but afar. Lethal use is fair so long as you keep it discreet. You'll only have a couple chances before your cover is blown. Sedano was walking among with his trusted men, and we gotta trail him. Upon talking to his other men, who he might pass on the code to, we'll use the sticky camera to record that code. Douglas was tasked to set the bomb on Sedano's plane, but because Sam was already going in, he decided to do the favor by saving him the trouble. How thoughtful. We'll keep going till we go underground, but in this area we'll lose contact with the NSA for a short period of time. We need to meet up with an insider CAA pilot and pass on the warning not to board the plane. We'll continue to follow Sedano's trail, record his audio one last time to get inside the mansion. Sneak through these open walls before he walks right out of the room, giving you the chance to tap into a secure phone. Once that's done, Sam will sneak through the back door. However, he suddenly gets ambushed by the guerrillas. Because Douglas got his 12 hidden snipers on the lookout, they came to save Sam. But really all he needed was a small diversion. and he's got the rest. His phone call was being transmitted through a submarine dock in an abandoned shipyard, so while we're still in Indonesia, we travel to Komodo in search of a shipyard. It's quite a road to travel, especially when you need to do your double jump over the house, but this part was always satisfying. After dealing with another guard and the upcoming turret ahead, you don't want to be alarmed with the infrared sensors. Heat vision will help you in this case. We travel underground, yet again, but close to where the abandoned shipyard is. You'll need a technician to lift the submarine to the surface in order to enter. Strange how during my first playthrough, this cutscene didn't play out, and the whole game in a sense just froze. Not until he was knocked out, then he gave out a message. So after lifting the submarine, then knocking the technician out quietly, we sneak inside the ship and have to grab the colonel to use the retinal scanner, as we enter through this room to access the Sixes. And with Grimm's hacking skills, she picked up on 5 different satellite phones connected to the private military corporation, which means the ND-133 that Sedano spread can now be neutralized. ShadowNet dispatches their team of Splinter Cells to handle all the smallpox storage devices, while Sam infiltrates the TV station in Jakarta, still in Indonesia, to prevent Sedano from broadcasting his speech, since he still thinks he's invincible. This is quite a long road before you get to the TV station. Once the weather gets worse out here, you start to deal with thunder and lightning. You'll need to play it smart. My one warning to you is lightning is not your friend. If it shows up, it doesn't matter if you're in the dark, you will be seen in a flicker of light, fast enough to get caught instantly. Once you get inside, you meet with Ingrid once again, as she's here to assist you in opening through doors by retinal scanners. But they run into some trouble after Ingrid's cover gets blown and Sam doesn't have a choice but to eliminate the incoming guards. And be sure to hide those bodies, because doing that whole thing again is no fun. And once you enter through the shaft, you reach your destination where Sedano premieres his broadcast as his henchman stands by guard. Best course of action is to eliminate all you can from atop. Discreetly kill everyone else when you get to the ground except Sedano. You need to keep him alive after his interrogation and brought in for extraction. Yep, he's going to jail. ShadowNet was successful on their mission, and so was Sam capturing Sedano. But we still have one more smallpox to dispose. And who else got that last smallpox other than Mortified Penguin, aka Jonathan Poindexter, aka Norman Soth. We arrive at the LAX International Airport in Los Angeles, and this is where you'll hop into that truck to break into the building. Besides the K9, you'll have employees of the LAX to deal with, but also a handful of Soth's goons dressed up as employees. All of Soth's goons have injected themselves with the smallpox vaccination, and you'll be tasked to kill them all mandatorily. One way to tell if they're the bad guys is using the heat vision goggles to see through their body temperature. If it's orange, shoot them. Now, one interesting note you'll notice is after their death, their body temperature will simmer and change the color in real time. That's pretty cool. You'll get far into this level and get inside the elevator, but Soth's men cuts the power before you could even go up. You'll climb out of the elevator and have to... this is where it got so clunky. Sam can't exactly swing over to the other wires, so he's stationary. He could jump, but good luck trying to safe land anywhere. You kinda have to maneuver yourself over to this little step here, practically your only means on getting on top. This is probably the one and only time in my playthrough that felt extremely clunky. Well, we're past that point, so we get into the next room and find Soth and his goons. What's the plan? Kill them all. After neutralizing the individuals, we carry the last smallpox. We don't have the necessary skills to disarm the nuclear device, and if this thing goes off, it'll be catastrophic. Even if everyone evacuated from the scene, the radius of the nuclear compression would still be huge. So in this mid-crisis, Sam dresses up as a maintenance worker, discreetly drops the box behind these 2 security guards with only less than 10 minutes to spare. Luckily, they realize and an expert team shows up on time to seal the explosion and call it a day. Mission accomplished. Although, what if that wasn't enough time? Or if those guards just walked away and ignored the box? Everyone would have died. The story did get a little better in some way, but again, it's not really that deep on that side of character development. It's as simple as a bad guy working with another bad guy, trying to spread a contagious virus and you gotta go stop them, but invisibly. But after going through all that hassle, it's got me curious whether the story for Chaos Theory is gonna do any better, or if it's just gonna be another mission story we don't care about, and just move on like the rest. Guess we'll find out next time. Sorry for those who thought multiplayer was going to be mentioned. This is an online multiplayer exclusive, so we'll talk more about that when we bring up System Link. And listen, if you didn't play the first Splinter Cell, don't sweat it. Pandora Tomorrow is a better start. Just remember that at the time of this recording, the only way to play Pandora is the physical copy of the 6th gen consoles, ripping the files off the PC and throwing in the patch fixes, or using an emulator, or grabbing a copy of Splinter Cell Trilogy remastered on PS3. If nothing else, that might be a better version. Well everyone, that's it from me. See you all next time on Chaos Theory. Salute!